Hey there. So I would like to show you a issue that I'm working on. I'm working on this Sonola Rivoli Special. It's a accordion that I inherited from my mother, who inherited it from her great grandmother. So it's been in the family from my mom's grandma, so my great grandma. So it's been in the family for a while. A number of years ago, I was kind of like fiddling around on the accordion, and I don't remember exactly what happened. This was like back in high school. Something with like the shoulder straps happened, and I ended up dropping the accordion from about waist height. I think I was taking it off or something. And ever since then, the bass buttons on the accordion basically play like 2 or 3 chords constantly. So anytime you move the bellows, there's 2 or 3 chords playing on the bass section, and there's nothing you can do. It's been a peculiar problem, but I just figured out what was causing it, and there's next to no reference material or diagrams on these old accordions, so I thought this might be helpful. I did look on YouTube. I couldn't find much on accordion repair. I found like a couple videos that kind of helped me look for the right things, but I did not find anybody who was working on one of these accordions, so I thought this might be worth something to somebody. I will start out by outlining some of the common problems that could cause this, that are mentioned in other videos. One is basically essentially is the stuck bass button is the problem, so to speak. The most common thing that can happen is, let me see if I can, I apologize, don't do many of these videos. So the most common thing that can happen here is, you have your bass buttons, and you have like a sticky bass button here where like the bass button doesn't come back up, it doesn't return when you press it, or it's stuck down into the accordion where you cannot you can't pull it up. And this can happen just for a variety of reasons, ranging from like temperature changes to just not playing a particular button very often. But usually the solution is pretty easy. You just remove the cover on the bass mechanism here. Usually there's 4 screws. There's videos on that on YouTube. You can find it. It's pretty much the same for all accordions. You just remove the cover. This is right behind the strap on the back side of the accordion. Then you locate you take a look at your mechanism, you locate your stuck button, and once you find that rod, you just take, needle nose pliers is what people suggest. You just take some needle nose pliers and you locate that rod, and you just push your button back up to the top of its travel. That's the easiest scenario. Another scenario that may not be as common because accordions don't typically get dropped like mine did, is that looking at this is a button rod right here. I don't know what the technical term was for it, so I'm just going to call it a button rod. Your button rod has these little pegs on it, and the pegs are actually what sit. Let me see if I can actually put this one in here. Let's see. I don't want to put it in the wrong spot. Well, I'll just demo it for you real quick. So essentially what happens is these pegs sit in here, and when you press the button, you can see it pushes down on these rods, these ones that are sticking out here that I'm actuating. With enough shock, and these pegs must be above the rods, so that when you push them down, it actuates the rods. If they're not above the rods, like if there was enough sideways shock, it is actually possible for the peg to move below the rod, so that it does not actuate. It doesn't cause the air flap to come off of the reed. So basically, the symptom would be you press the button and nothing happens. It's almost similar to like a blown out reed or something. So that was a possibility that I found that no one mentioned. I did have one or two that had flipped, so the rod had gone the opposite way. But that's not what happened here with this accordion. So I've already repaired it somewhat. But what had happened was, you see how, if you look down in here, you see these in between, you'll have to look past all this, but down below you see all these vertical, or excuse me, horizontal relative to the camera rods. And those are what these are branching off of, these long ones. And all those are, essentially, is a long lever. The problem with this accordion was that when it was dropped, there is a center piece of metal that retains these into, if you look at my fingers, basically the rods sit in little grooves, and there's a metal retaining plate that sits on top of those that holds the rods into their respective grooves so that they stay aligned. The force of dropping the accordion had broken. You can't really see it very well, but there's a wooden block down there that the retaining strip, this metallic strip, screws into. It had broken that, and the retaining strip had come loose, causing some of these to shift out of place. And what it essentially looked like was, instead of these going straight across, you know, straight as an arrow from end cap to end cap, they had been bowed in the center, where even one was sitting on top of two of them. And it caused, although most of these operated normally and they felt normal, it was enough torsion to cause these flaps to not open properly. So I just had to put them back into their correct grooves, and then I had to re-secure this top plate with a bit of glue on the end, and I had to finagle it a little bit. It's not the best repair, but it's the best I can do right now. But I haven't seen anybody discuss that kind of problem. Taking these rods out, you had, in this particular case with this Rivoli Special, you must remove, in order to really see a lot of the mechanism. It's debatable that you may have been able to do this. I may have been able to do this without removing the rods, but I originally thought that the button rods were the problem. So to do this on the Rivoli Special, I actually had to remove the first 4 rows of button rods. And you have to be really careful when you do this, because when you assemble these, if you mix up the order of these rods, you may as well throw your base section away, because you will never get it right again. There's a lot of them, and what I did to make sure that I put them back the same way, I'll just leave this one out for now because I'm about to start reassembly. I just got this cardboard box, and I drew a grid on it with the exact number of holes that the base section has, and an arrow that points to the front of the accordion. So I'm going to put it on my lap here and just reassemble it like this with the arrow pointing forward. And all I do is I look at the grid and I look at the top. Of course it's on a slant, but you don't think about it like that when you're looking at your box. And I'm just going to put these back in here in the opposite order that I took them out. When I took them out right, left to right. And then next row, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put them back in the reverse order from right to left, working my way down. And as long as you don't mix them up, putting them in your box, you should be good to go. If there's anybody else that has one of these accordions that has any questions, I did figure out how to take some of this apart. It was a little bit of a puzzle, trying to get these rods out so I could get access to the parts. So leave a comment or something if you have a question. I'll try to get back to you. But otherwise, like, I'm not a professional. I don't work on musical instruments. I work on cars and computers, and I was able to figure this out relatively easily. I mean, I think if you're handy and you just need to get over the fear of opening it up, with something simple like this box, you can stay organized and you won't lose track of the order of your rods. So, yeah, I hope that's of use to somebody, and hopefully when I reassemble this, I can, well, I just felt guilty for breaking a family heirloom, so I hope that it works. See you later.